options for your grill. And while you're there, grab a bite of the best barbecue in Las Vegas. With 2 locations now at Tom and Gowan or on North Decatur, you're sure to find the perfect meats for your next barbecue or party. Find us online at johnmolemeats.com.
Do you love watching television? If you're on a fixed budget, you need to make this free call right now to Dish and find out how you can get a fixed monthly price to watch all the television you want for 3 full years. In addition to a 3-year price guarantee, you can also get free monthly movie rentals. They give you 1 free movie rental every month. That's a $165 value, yours free. Plus, get free in-home tech visits, no-cost equipment replacements, a free voice remote, and you can watch commercial-free TV. Even access all your favorite apps to stream like Netflix, Amazon Prime, YouTube, and more. Now is the perfect time to call Dish. Take advantage of the 3-year price guarantee. Save yourself some money, and all your equipment is free. Call right now.
800-586-4206. 800-586-4206. 800-586-4206. That's 800-586-4206. Paid for by NPS.
Live from Las Vegas, this is the Wayne Coy Show.
I just can't get enough of that sound. I'm sorry. I'm addicted to it. It's like a drug to me. And yeah, I'm the same guy who complained on the air about, can't we come up with something other than that? But right now, it's like sweet music to my ears here. And I got a feeling I'm going to hear a whole lot more of that this coming Tuesday night just to get you up to date. The Oakland Coliseum is the place where the Oakland A's, of course, rumored to be potentially relocating here to Las Vegas, are going to be playing the Tampa Bay Rays. That's usually been the reaction on a Tuesday night in Oakland against the Rays, but not this year. No, this year it's going to be a different reaction, and the reason why is because of the brainchild of this guy right here, Stu Clary, who's been a frequent regular guest on our show. Hello, Stu.
Hey, Wayne. How are you, buddy?
Doing great, man. So you kind of look like Nostradamus right now. You know that, right?
Just a lucky guess, man. Just a lucky guess.
I mean, you picked this date for the obvious and well-stated reasons that you wanted to choose a night that was against a team that doesn't typically draw well, because it would be too easy then for the naysayers to say, well, of course you packed the Coliseum. You're playing the Yankees, or you're playing the Giants, or the Dodgers, or the Cubs, or the Mets, or pick one, Boston Red Sox. Instead, you went, no, let's find the team that never draws in Oakland, and that would be the Tampa Bay Rays, and let's do it on a night where, frankly, nobody goes to the game, and that would be Tuesday night. You did all of that well in advance, and now the storm clouds have continued to grow and brew. It's like a movie, Stu, and you are the dude who put it all together. So first of all, congratulations.
Well, thank you. But just to set the record straight, I'm not the dude that put it all together. I'm the dude that came up with an idea, but I shared the idea, and many, many, many A's fans, many people around the country jumped on it. It struck a nerve. It snowballed. I need to really downplay it. I came up with an idea and I shared it, and enough people thought it was a good idea that they acted on it. It's going to be a pretty big deal on Tuesday night. How many we draw, I don't know, but I would encourage the listeners, if you're interested, check the box score and check the attendance for Monday. Do it again on Tuesday if you're not able to be there, if you're out of the area, then do it again on Wednesday. And I think that there will be a stark contrast to the attendance numbers. I don't know. We're not going to sell it out. There's 55,000 seats there, but it'll be a substantial increase over the norm. And the truth be told, Wayne, and again, I appreciate it. My head's getting big. My ego's getting blown up. But I actually was looking at a different date. And when I came up with the idea, I shared it with a friend of mine that's very well connected. He put together an informal focus group. And the people in the group said, no, it should be in June. And Yeah, I think one of the reasons was that the Major League Baseball owners meetings are going to be next week as well.
Oh, so there was an awareness of the fact that the owners were going to be meeting at the same time as you're making your statement.
100%, because that's really what we're after. We're not under any. We're not delusional, Wayne. We don't think that John Fisher is going to have this epiphany that, oh wow, maybe we should stay here after all. No, what we're after is awareness. It's not the fans' fault that there's low attendance numbers. He's taken a page right out of the movie Major League.
Yeah.
He has torn down the franchise, and not just players either. The front office is running on a bare bones. He stripped away a lot of the concessions, like the concession stands are closed, but also he's taken away like some of the food choices. And not to mention the thing that everybody I think knows by now, even after he traded all the best players, doubled the ticket prices.
Crazy. Yeah, that's
and so why would you go? And I think I don't want to beat a dead horse, Wayne. I think I used this analogy last time I was here, but I think it bears repeating. Here's the analogy. If there's a great restaurant, one of your sponsors is the best barbecue in Las Vegas. I want to be there, and I want to go there and have some. But if they all of a sudden raise their menu prices, you might still go, even if they raise it substantially. If it is indeed the best barbecue in Las Vegas, who doesn't love barbecue? But let's say they traded out those great ribs that they have and the wonderful pulled pork, and instead they're serving, I don't know, hamburger helper and roadkill. Well, you wouldn't go there anymore.
Well, I don't know. Some of the roadkill I've sampled over the years, Stu, I mean,
it all depends on how you season it.
Yeah, if you put it in good ramen, I might actually.
I'm with you. That was a bad. But the point is, what he's done is he's traded away fan favorites, great baseball players. I mean, take a look at what Marcus Semien is doing right now. Take a look at what Matt Chapman's doing.
Matt Olson,
Murphy and Olson over in Atlanta.
Hendricks is already back and saving games in Chicago.
They should all be Oakland Athletics. And any of the other 29 teams, they would have a chance to be Oakland Athletics. I'll tell you, Marcus Semien, what a sad story. This is a guy that grew up. Well, let's see, where's Albany? He grew up maybe 10 miles from the Oakland Coliseum.
Very near Berkeley.
Went to high school there, went to college at Cal Berkeley, which I know there's people all over the country listening. Berkeley is adjacent to Oakland. You don't know when you cross the street if you're in Berkeley and you're in Oakland. Yep. And then came here and became a superstar.
But it didn't start off good. If you recall, he was
worked his ass off.
Yeah, but he had the yips. I mean, at the beginning of his career, he was horrible defensively, and then Ron Washington worked with him, and he got very serious about his defense, and now he's a great defensive shortstop.
Yes. And not only that, he's one of the best hitters in baseball. Mm-hmm. So, and doesn't stop there. I mean, you could look at Chris Bassett,
Max Muncy leading the National League in home runs right now.
Jesus Luzardo. We can go on and on and on and on. Sean Manaea should be our number 3 starter instead of being across the bay in San Francisco. Yeah. So all that said, a lot of A's fans just don't go anymore because what's the point? You trade away the best players, you raise the ticket prices,
and keep telling us that you're going to take the team to Las Vegas.
In the 55-year history of the Oakland A's, and this is a stone cold fact, we've had maybe 15 years of good ownership. We've been saddled with 40 years of terrible ownership. And I mean, this goes back to Charlie Finley, who moved the team to Oakland in 68, was a great owner until the economics of baseball changed. He couldn't keep up, and with the advent of free agency, he just couldn't afford to do it anymore. So he became a bad owner, right? He tried to hang on and hold on to his business, but his business model was don't pay the players, right? So he sold to the Walter Haas family. Walter Haas was he was the family that owns Levi's. And he was a great owner. He was committed to the East Bay and Oakland. And not coincidentally, he had a one of the top payrolls in baseball. So we know it can happen in Oakland. And during that era, which the fans will remember, or younger fans have heard about, the Bash Brothers era with Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco, Ricky Henderson, they were one of the top 2, 3, top 5 draws in Major League Baseball for an extended period of time. And that's a fact that you can look up on. You can look that up on baseball.
On the field, Stu. They were celebrities off the field as well.
Oh no, the Bash Brothers A's were rock stars for sure. It was an attractive free agent destination. I mean, Dave Parker came here. There's plenty of guys. They wanted to play in Oakland, and the fans came out in droves. And you can go to Baseball Reference, and they have all the attendance numbers. You can see where the A's ranked in those years.
Almost 3 million one year.
Of course. And that's with in Oakland, where all of a sudden now we can't support a team. It's not that we can't. We won't. Not unless it's a two-way street. The other thing, Wayne, I know you're there in Las Vegas. I know there's lots of people listening, in Southern Nevada. We want you guys to have a baseball team. I would love to see an expansion team in Las Vegas. We have nothing against the people of Las Vegas. We hope you get baseball. We just don't want you to have our team. And on top of that, honestly, while we'll keep them, we don't want you to be saddled with our owner. He's a crook. No, he's not a crook. He's a miser. He's a miser. He's the worst owner in professional sports in the United States.
Sure. Hey, I have a theory that I just floated for the first time publicly just a day or so ago, and I'd be curious to see what you think about this, Stu. But I'm wondering if it's possible that maybe through the pandemic and maybe some bad business decisions, that Mr. Fisher doesn't have the kind of money we all think that he does. And so because of that, and I think it is public record that he has a couple of loans where he's used the A's as collateral. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe financially, is it possible that he's up against the wall, needs to sell the team? And the best way to do that is to get a new stadium worked out as fast as possible so that A, the value of the team will increase, B, the revenue check will still come in January like it's supposed to. And then you have what is known as the pump, which can immediately be followed by the dump. He can sell the team, pay off his debts, still have enough money to be very comfortable and ride off into the sunset while the A's have new owners, whether it be in Vegas or in Oakland.
I don't think that's probable. I think it's probable. I don't think it's possible. I think it's probable. I think that's exactly what it is. Again, I know there's listeners all over the country and aren't as in tune as we are with some of the facts. So I don't know if everybody knows who John Fisher is or how hard he worked to earn his billions of dollars. You know what he did to earn his money? Well, he was born. His parents started a business called The Gap. So if you shop at The Gap, Banana Republic, or Old Navy, I think there's another one or two, and that's how he earns his money. And if you look at Gap stock right now, the stock price has been plummeting. People just don't shop at The Gap anymore. It's becoming passé, and I think
they don't fall into The Gap.
No, they walk right past The Gap and they go to other stores.
Yeah. That jingle's just not as catchy, though, is it? Walk right past the Gap.
It works for me.
Yeah, I bet it does.
It's funny because it's, I think fairly common knowledge, or at least assume that there are several offers long-standing offers for the A's to. People have offers to purchase the A's. People that are credible, and he's repeatedly. Apparently, because he doesn't do media interviews, but apparently they're just not for sale. And
well, because he needs the value to go up first.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I can't remember the exact numbers. I don't want to come out here and give false information, but I know that the team is valued at a heck of a lot more now than it was then.
I heard like 1.5 billion. and he paid 180 million. So
how much do you really need to profit off of this? I mean, his great grandchildren's grandchildren are set up for life if they don't, waste it.
Well, I think the scuttlebutt is, though, if you get a new stadium, the value is going to go up even higher because of it's new and it's shiny and everybody wants to go because it's new and it's shiny. And that's you're selling
if you
high.
own it, though, right? If you own it. So if correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you're in tune with this, the A's would not own the proposed new ballpark in Las Vegas. Is that correct?
Right.
So,
but having been relocated and playing in a new ballpark is going to elevate the value of the team regardless.
I honestly, and I'll go on record on a national audience right here, I just don't see it happening. I think it's a power play. I think he's using Las Vegas and the Nevada to sweeten the pot for what he thinks he can get from Oakland.
Well, he's already got, according to what I heard today, is $400 million. Does that sound right?
Yeah, there was more grants that were just approved for upgrades at the port. So where the Howard Terminal that you've heard about is part of the Port of Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did read earlier today, and only gave it a quick glance, was I believe they've been approved for another huge grant for improvements at the port.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like another 50 million, right? Mm-hmm. Coming soon, like September.
Yeah.
So, okay, so there you go. That's the cash you say you need, and you're getting it. But the deal in Oakland was he was going to have all of this extra real estate that he was going to develop because he, according to the team statements, we have to have that to make this work. Mm-hmm. We've got to have restaurants and stores and hotels and et cetera and so on, offices, blah, blah, blah. Now the story, and be on the water. That was so important that we be on the water.
So he's going to move to the desert.
Yeah, so we're going to go to the desert, to the busiest intersection in the state, and we're going to build a stadium, a retractable roof stadium on 9 acres that nobody so far in the history of retractable roofs has been able to get to fit on that kind of a postage stamp. Oh, and by the way, you don't own the land, and none of that property around you are you going to be developing. It'll all be developed by somebody else. So that's the desperation that I'm saying is only about, I got to get something done before January. Otherwise, I don't get my check. And I need to sell. And I can't sell until we relocate or build a stadium in Oakland.
It just boggles the mind. It doesn't make any sense. Make it make sense, Wayne.
I'm trying. So we watched and then repeated this entire thing that happened. Well, it didn't happen yesterday. They adjourned yesterday. They're getting back together again on Monday. And that just tells you that they didn't have the votes either way. They didn't have pass this thing or not pass this thing votes. So that's all got to percolate for a while. And then if it gets through the Senate, and that's a big if it does, then they won't be talking about that until Monday. And now here we are right back to where we started from. It's Stu's party, everybody, over at the Coliseum. Now, I heard today, you tell me if I'm wrong, if they're wrong, but the number I heard was 14,000 already with no flex seating people, meaning people that have season tickets that can choose to move to that game or not go to that game. That hasn't even happened yet for most of those people.
And what usually happens with Oakland crowds, because the Coliseum is so big, there's always a tremendous walk-up.
Yeah.
I can't remember the number. Our season ticket base is really small because of all the BS with John Fisher, but everyone knows you don't have to buy tickets in advance to the Oakland A's game at the Oakland Coliseum. There's 50,000 seats there. So I anticipate there being a huge walk-up just based on what I'm hearing.
And it may not be traditional walk-up in the sense that people are going to go stand in line. It could very well be a couple hours before the game, they grab a ticket online for a discount, right?
Sure. It could be everything. I've heard all kinds of stuff.
I bet you do 20. 20 plus. That's my guess.
I think so. And while that's not the number that they'll get at Yankee Stadium or I don't know, Atlanta,
It's 10
whenever they
times
played
more than they had a
that's a
month
pretty
ago.
damn good 20K is pretty. That's 10 times what they would ordinarily get.
Right. I mean, you got
So,
2,000 people out there.
Again, I encourage your listener or encourage the viewers and listeners to check the box score on Monday and Tuesday and compare.
Yeah. And I think you'll see that.
It's going to be a big difference for sure.
Talk to me about the Oakland 68s and the giveaway. This is the first time I can ever remember in the history of the sport where the promotional giveaway, the T-shirt, the bobblehead, the towel, the whatever you get, is being completely paid for, not by a corporation. It's being paid for by a GoFundMe started by a group of fans.
Everyone that's been a lifelong baseball fan has gone to bat day or T-shirt day or cap day or bobblehead days where the team has a corporation underwrite the cost of a stadium giveaway.
Sure.
The Oakland 68s, you guys around the country probably know them as the bleacher guys in right field that play the drums. There's much more to them than just playing the drums. They are a booster club. They're a registered nonprofit. They do a lot of community outreach. They do a lot of youth advocacy. They do a lot of good in the community, especially with underprivileged youth. So let's throw that out there. Yeah. Well, they announced that they had an idea of collaborating with the Oakland-based apparel company Oaklandish to have a shirt giveaway. They wanted to give away 5,000 shirts. The shirts are very simple. They're green, and in white it just says "sell." That's it. Very simple. And you see them around a little bit, but so they asked for donations they took to Twitter. They got the word out to A's fans. They say, can you please donate? We're going to give these out. Help us out here. And many, many people sent in $50, $100 or whatever it was. I bought 10 shirts, but you don't buy them and get them shipped to you, which what you're doing is you're donating. Now they're up to 6,000 people that show up are going to get these shirts at the game on Tuesday night. Yeah. So it's not.
Imagine what the visual is going to look like on TV.
It's going to be awesome, man. It's going to be awesome. They already have that. I've seen some around, and
can I?
If you've ever seen an A's game on television? Yeah, bam, they're right there.
That's Las Vegas made, by the way.
So the Cell shirts that I've seen, the graphic is a little smaller.
Oh, I told them to make it as big as you can make it.
That's great.
That's literally 14 inches. That's as big as it'll come.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
If you've seen an A's game on television, there's a seating area directly behind the plate that's known as the diamond level.
Yeah.
And
those are $300 tickets, by the way.
$300 tickets. I have seen a bunch of Cell shirts on the last few home games sitting in the diamond level. In fact, we just heard a story, I think it was day before yesterday, where a season ticket holder gave up and donated their diamond level tickets to somebody for Tuesday night so that some people could wear Cell shirts and have them on TV there the whole game.
Oh, and it'll get repeated and over. Are you familiar with DA in New York, CBS Sports?
I am. He has been very, very much of a friend of the A's fans.
Yes, I was just going to tell you, he's already on record as saying that he's going to make sure everybody gets to see those shirts as much as possible.
That's fantastic. What's really been cool is the national media has taken notice, not just of what we're going to be doing in a couple of nights on Tuesday, but our plight in general. When Ken Rosenthal talks about, John Fisher and his malfeasance, I guess is the best way to put it.
It's a nice way to put it. Yeah.
That's pretty big when you get a guy like that, the number one baseball writer in the country, and he's not alone. I don't know about the lives of the ultra rich. Maybe when you're that guy and you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you don't care what other people think about you. But gosh, it just seems like you wouldn't want this to be your legacy.
Okay. So, and to be fair, my wife, who is a CEO, she's a business person. She sees things that I don't see because I'm a ghetto rat from East Oakland. So,
Sure.
I didn't, I wasn't raised around money. So I have a different perspective on a lot of things. But she said to me, look, and there's something else going on here, which got my gears turning. That's why my theory about, the pandemic was a bunch of cardboard cutouts, and you were still having to pay at that time some pretty, maybe not Yankee type salaries, but they were paying fairly for Major League Baseball at the time. And they had to deal with it like every other owner did. But
Right.
some maybe get hit a little bit harder. Who knows what kind of situation? Plus, as you pointed out, the Gap stock is down. So desperate times call for desperate measures, whether you are somebody who, bootstrapped yourself to success, or in this case, you were born on third base and thought you hit a triple. It doesn't matter. Either way, you still have the same kind of reality thrown at you. So it doesn't necessarily mean he's a horrible man. It just means maybe he's not the greatest businessman. And I think that what we're all saying is you've got something there that's been nurtured for 55 years that is literally at this point a family heirloom. I am living proof. I'm 3 generations. There's me, there's my son, there's my son's son, and that will continue as long as the team stays there, and it should stay there. So the fact that this is happening without giving the opportunity for that thing to really sort of work itself through, I can only hope that you're right, that this is just something that maybe it is business. Maybe they're smarter than the average bear. Maybe this is all to get leverage on Oakland and to be able to get what they wanted in the first place, which is a pretty little ballpark on the water right across from the Giants. Wouldn't that be great? In the meantime, I'm with you also because I live here now, and the people in Las Vegas, Southern Nevada, these are great people here. They really are. And
Of
they
course.
come from everywhere, Stu. They're a melting pot. And
Oh no, of course.
I think they've proven they can support baseball out in Summerlin with the Aviators. Lots of sellouts out there. And I think they will support Major League Baseball. But don't put the stadium there. Put it where it really makes sense to put it. And don't have this guy begging you for millions and millions of dollars. In fact, put a group together. If you'll notice, there's no one at the forefront of the movement for Las Vegas to get baseball. Not now. There would be maybe over the course of time if they let it be known that, look, you may get an expansion team, but you need to know that you're competing against Portland and Nashville and Salt Lake City and Montreal and all these places that have legitimate efforts already underway to try to get Major League Baseball. Do it that way. Pay the expansion fee. Know that your ownership's going to be vetted like nothing else, and they're going to be solid. And then you can start your own tradition, as they've proven with the Golden Knights in the NHL, that if they're homegrown here in Vegas, they will support that team. Now, the Raiders, it's a different story. It's 8 games a year, 9, and they're playing half the time in front of fans of the other team anyway. It's a different deal.
I think that when people point to the success of the Raiders in Las Vegas and think that equates to baseball, I think they're really off base. Because while if the Browns come to town, you'll get a huge group of people coming from Cleveland and all over the country because the Browns, like the Raiders, are a national brand. But if the Guardians come in, they're not going to – they might be some that come in for a weekend series, but they sure as hell are not going to fly to Vegas for a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday midweek series. Baseball's a different animal.
Yeah, sure. And plus, Stu, it's a 30,000 seat stadium. So let's say they do sell it out against the Yankees and the Mets and all those logical contenders. On a Wednesday against the Pittsburgh Pirates, when there's 5,000 people there, they've only got 30,000 seats. So there's never a time later in the schedule where you can go, whew, well, we sold 50,000 for this game and that made up for the game. You can't, because it's only 30,000 seats. At the worst possible location, take it from me, I live here, that's not where there should be a ball.
It just seems half-baked.
It is. Yeah, it is. And that's why I need to be there on Tuesday, which I want to make the announcement here, over the air on the show, which is that I'm leaving you next week, Wayne Coy Show people, but I'm not leaving completely in the dry because I'm taking a portable recorder with me. I'm taking my equipment with me. I don't know if we'll actually do the show live from the parking lot because I'm up against game time, but we're definitely going to get plenty of sound. And I hope to catch up with you and all your buddies there and just bring a lot of that spirit back here so you can hear what it sounded like right there in the Coliseum parking lot.
I'll tell you, Wayne, I'll be in Lot A, which I'm sure you're familiar with off of 66. I'll be right inside the gate. The 68's tailgate is on the other side, since the right field side. They'll be in Lot B, and what they have planned is off the chain. I mean, they have
something about a pig roast. Is that true?
There's a pig roast. There is mariachi bands. There is barbecue. They're going all out. It's going to be, the whole place is just going to be a really great party. If you haven't been, the tailgating experience in Oakland, whether it's the A's or the Raiders, you're really missing out. It's you can walk up and down and you might see Guy Fieri there. I don't know. It's there'll be it's going to be a great time. It's going to be a big party. And
now you say you're going to be right inside the gate, so you park so you can be the first one out.
Ain't my first rodeo, Wayne.
Vacaville's a little bit of a haul, so you gotta beat everybody out of there. I don't blame you.
No, I like being in control of that sort of situation.
Yeah, no, I've sat there. It's it can be interesting.
It's a good spot.
I've made some lifelong friends in that parking lot, and
you and me both. We all have. Anybody, that's the thing is, my kids grew up in that Coliseum. My wife and I go to games a lot, not so much this year, but we still go. I've made so many good friends through the A's.
Yeah.
And just hate to see them go. I just don't believe it would happen. I haven't believed it yet, and I don't believe it now.
Well, you are the embodiment of what should be their marketing campaign. I mean, truthfully, that sign still says rooted in Oakland. And it's got to be awfully tough to look at right now when you're like, yeah, sure you are. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been lied to for years. This guy, as you saw in the hearings, Dave Cavill is quite the snake. The A's president and John Fisher's mouthpiece, you can't, anything comes out of his mouth is a lie. And
he certainly didn't answer the question
for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, I remember open office hours in the treehouse, and he came in looking like Willy Wonka, right?
Yeah,
and now it's more like the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Just terrible, terrible.
Is it just me, or do you look like maybe he was sick, like in poor health?
I wish
like he hadn't slept.
Anybody, but he did look like there's been some stress going on in his life.
I would imagine it's pretty stressful. He never answered that question either, ever.
No. Nor will he, because we know what the answer is. Because we know the answer. The answer is no. I'm not going to pay taxes. That's why I'm coming here.
Yeah.
No, he's the A's think that I don't know. I can't say that. It appears to me that the A's think that the Nevada legislators, the Nevada governor, and the Nevada taxpayers are a bunch of rubes. That's what they think. They think, oh, well, these rich people from California are going to come. We don't need to pay taxes.
Yeah, I heard the word mark used, which means sucker.
Yeah.
And that's why I said it's like a big game of 3-card monte. Pay no attention. Tip, tip, tip.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd the ball
go?
No,
they're definitely playing Governor Lombardo for a sucker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so perfect. Like we said at the beginning of our interview here tonight, the winds are swirling, and they've lined you up now to where you get a Tuesday night that will follow the reconvened Senate on Monday. Certainly not going to be able to wrap all that up in one day. Even if the Senate votes, it still has to go to the Assembly. So this is going to be a live firecracker, a hot potato, whatever you want to call it, on Tuesday. Major League Baseball's ownership meets beginning on Tuesday. The entire world, sports world, is going to be watching what's happening over there. What did Stu start? and we all get to see it, and I get to participate in it, and I can't wait, man. So I'll tell you this a million times, but I'll tell you right now, thank you very much for what you've done.
Wayne, thank you. You've helped get the word out. I've done countless radio shows and podcasts, and magazine and radio interviews, and they're still coming. And I just want to thank everybody in the media, and especially a guy like you that has a history with the A's and the Raiders. And you're in a really unique position, right? Being in Vegas. And again, I just can't express this enough. We don't have any beef with Las Vegas.
Right.
I hope that Las Vegas gets an expansion team. And quite honestly, after all this, I hope the expansion team gets placed in the AL West, because what a rivalry that'll become.
How crazy if you have the Angels and the Las Vegas, whatever they're called.
The Las Vegas Fishers, maybe.
I don't even want to know what those fish are going to look like.
No, you don't want that. I think we can come up with
those
something.
are the ones we throw back, Stu. Those are from the estuary. They don't smell good. Those are from Lake Merritt. We caught them with Pillsbury doe.
I think that we can come up with a better name, though, for sure.
How about the Las Vegas Smelt?
I think aces or blackjacks would be better.
I like blackjacks. Blackjacks works. Why not? Okay.
And think about the giveaway. You could give out blackjacks.
Well, no, easy now. we're trying to keep people calm, not fire them up.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. You're right.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Tuesday. Once again, I want to thank everybody that's thought I had a good idea and rolled with it.
You did, and you do, and we can't be more than thankful. And we're gonna prove to you that you had a great idea just by showing up and having the time that you kind of figured we would.
If nothing else, we're going to show up. The drums will be back for one night only. We're going to have a off the hook party, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be memorable, and that's really all we can do. And
the Rays are a pretty good team now. So if we can beat them, how cool
even
would
better.
that be? The over-under on steals by Ruiz is Ruiz steals is 3, by the way. Over-under.
I see the A's are beating the Brewers right now 5-2 as well. So we're on a little bit of a
winning streak.
Well, let's knock on wood a couple times, Wayne, and we'll see what happens, brother.
Okay. Thank you, Stu. Have a great night, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, Wayne. And I want to thank you again and say goodnight to everybody out there listening in. So thanks for having me. We'll see you. We'll hope to see you on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'll see you in Lot A.
All right, great. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Stu Clary, there he goes. He's the guy with the idea that now is turned into reality. And it's crazy because I think it's going to be everything he hoped it would be. Oh, and then some. And that's this coming Tuesday night. Again, we'll be off the air with the regular show, but believe me, we're going to be getting all the sights and mainly the sounds so that you can hear them when we get back together again after we get back from California.
The Wayne Coy Show.
Hey, this is Bobby De Niro. You talking to me because I'm talking to you. I hear there's a very funny, politically incorrect show called the Jew Man Group Show. It's a comedy about everybody and everything at the Tuscany Hotel Copa Showroom. It plays Wednesday through Saturday at 6 p.m. Get your tickets.
Hey, what are you saying? You saying it's funny? Funny how? Funny like it amuses you funny? Like it's your personal clown funny?
Are you stupid or what? Just go see it.
In times of economic uncertainty and chaos, your money means nothing. You may not even be able to get it from your bank or ATM. And the money you do have in the stock market will go down and down. What you can bank on is gold and silver. Gold and silver have been a reliable and trusted form of currency for thousands of years. Gold and silver have never been worth zero, and typically gold holds its value during economic turmoil. Call the Gold Hotline now and learn how to protect your money and your assets with gold and silver. And learn how to set up a new IRA or roll over your current one into a gold-backed IRA. Protect your money from the next market crash with gold and silver. Call now for your free gold guide.
800-557-7921. 800-557-7921. 800-557-7921. That's 800-557-7921.
Now, back to the Wayne Coy Show.
Just insane how their energy is so high. Crazy. Supportive, loud, extreme, definitely enthusiastic, and definitely intimidating.
Endearingly crazy. When you say Cameron Crazies, Bleacher Creatures, and the Dog Pound, you think famous sports fans, but another group is making their own name.
We're known to call ourselves the Fanily. That's Fanily.
Not to be confused with the 70s We Are Family Pittsburgh Pirates. This Fanily represents the Oakland A's, more specifically, Section 149 in right field.
Hey, Hunter! The group started organically. You start to notice the people that are out here for every game.
Some of the diehards include Anson Casaneras, who's been in right field since 2006. Will McNeil, who's been there since 2005. Drew Martin mimics A's great Raleigh Fingers. And Michelle Hall and George Leon became a couple through a love for the A's.
Kind of won me over with his love for the green and gold.
All of a sudden, it just became like a little cluster of fans coming together, and that's how it kind of grew to the point where it is right now.
The group are season ticket holders. However, since the right field section is general admission, they have to save seats every game to keep the tradition going.
Every year, more fans started showing up, and then it all just became one big family.
What sets Oakland fans apart is that they're just a different breed.
You know, you get your crazy fans here, you get your crazy fans there. They're crazy in the ballpark, not outside the ballpark. They definitely have more of that football feel to them.
The Fanily became known a couple of years ago during their playoff run with the Balfour Rage for former A's closer Grant Balfour and the Bernie dance inspired by the 80s movie Weekend at Bernie's. Now, although most of their rituals are done at the spur of the moment, there are some go-tos. Number one, if an A's player has 3 balls in the count, you've got to have a Balfour chant. Number 2, each out is counted down and they expect their own team's right fielder to follow along.
Of course, me, I'm ADD as can be, so I always forget. And they're always yelling at me about how many outs, Moss?
Number 3, every time the A's score, they get a song to accompany them back to the dugout. And number 4, there are drum beats for everything.
Come up with all of our own chants. We can try to come up with something that really fits each player.
For example, when Josh Reddick comes up to Careless Whisper by Wham, the right field crowd reacts. When Sean Doolittle comes out to Metallica, they react a little differently. And when Coco Crisp gets the party started with DJ Cool, you guessed it.
The only stadium in Major League Baseball, I think, that has such a, like, the soccer almost type of atmosphere.
They even make songs with their own twist for catcher Stephen Vogt, made famous by the U.S. men's national soccer team.
If I didn't play for the A's, they would definitely be probably the most annoying fans out there in the game, especially if you're playing right field. It'd definitely be nerve-wracking.
Unless you're MLB veteran Jeff Francoeur, who played along with the group when he was with the Royals.
They're yelling out stuff like, hey, who's on your fantasy team? Or like, do you like bacon? He turns around and says, yeah, I love bacon. So we're like, you know what? We're going to have a Bacon Tuesday.
Francoeur and the Fanily bonded over bacon, and the right fielder even gave the group a signed bat that said, keep making bacon, as well as a signed ball with $100 to buy more. You guessed it, bacon.
They're out there every day, whether it's a Monday night, Friday night, or a Wednesday matinee. I don't get how they still have jobs if they're out there for a Wednesday 1 o'clock game during the middle of the week.
I have a very flexible boss, and I've only missed 2 all year, so I make about 79 games a year.
The fans better figure out how to miss work for the postseason. The A's were one of baseball's elite teams and could realistically win their first World Series since 1989.
I promise you it'll be the biggest party in the Bay Area. Oakland fans know how to party more than any other fan base in baseball. I promise you that.
They're true baseball fans. They're true A's fans. And we really do get some, a good feeling from them, and they're part of what we're all about.
Let's go, Oakland! Let's go, Oakland!
Do you get it? I bet you do.
The Wayne Coy Show.
Are you worried about your taxes? Okay, so I'm talking to those of you out there that have not filed in a few years with the IRS or state. It's time to get worried, and here's why. The IRS is getting back from their own COVID lockdown, and they're hiring more enforcers, and they're going to come after people that owe taxes. So if you're a 1099 worker, and maybe you just plain forgot to file your taxes, you need to call the professionals right now at the Tax Helpline. They are experts at knowing the tax regulations, and their goal is to help you pay as little as possible. Call right now and get a 100% free tax evaluation. Remember, before the IRS knocks on your door, knock on our door. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, make this free call right now.
Call Texas 321 now at 800-203-3517. 800-203-3517. That's 800-203-3517.
Hi, I'm Sheldon, the owner of Solid Motor Cars. I've spent over 30 years in the retail car business. It is all about the vehicles, but more than that, it's about the people. And my team and I are proud to bring to you what we believe is the finest experience in buying a pre-owned car. With great credit, we can get super low interest rates. But if you've had some challenges, we're experts in that field, and we can get almost anybody approved. Come down to Solid Motor Cars and take a look at our vehicles. They come with a 6-month, 6,000-mile warranty. So when you get a vehicle from Solid Motor Cars, you can feel confident that that vehicle is a quality, properly reconditioned vehicle that will serve you and your family for years to come. So for all your automotive needs, whether it's a new car, truck, or SUV, or if it's repairs, service, and maintenance, Solid Wheels, solid deals, solid people. Coming down to meet the crew. My name's Sheldon. I'm the owner here. I'd love to help you any way that I can.
3024 East Fremont Street, 702-820-1444.
Now, back to the Wayne Coy Show.
122 years of existence, they have done quite a few things. One of them has been moving from city to city. They have now just become the second most moved sports team in American history. Since 1955, the A's have relocated from Philadelphia to Kansas City to Oakland and now Las Vegas. But in this situation, there is nobody else to blame besides bad ownership. The move to Las Vegas is now official, with the A's agreeing in principle to purchase a plot of land close to the famous Las Vegas Strip, with a plan to be there for the 2027 season. Oakland A's fans have been anticipating this move for quite some time. You would expect there would be a press conference or a respectful way for ownership to announce the move.
It's false. No way. Not this time. It's false. It never happened.
Yeah, so the A's opted to write their statement with the Notes app on somebody's phone, took a screenshot of that note, and posted it online. It reads, statement from the Oakland A's. The A's have signed a binding agreement to purchase land for a future ballpark in Las Vegas. We realize this is a difficult day for our Oakland fans and community. For more than 20 years, the A's have focused on securing a new home for the club and have invested unprecedented time and resources for the past 6 years to build a ballpark in Oakland. Even with the support from fans, leaders at the city, county, and state level, and throughout the broader community, the process to build a new ballpark in Oakland has made little forward progress for some time. We have made a strong and sincere effort to stay here. We recognize that this is very hard to hear. We are disappointed that we have been unable to achieve our shared vision of a waterfront ballpark. As we shift our focus to Vegas, we will continue to share details about next steps. Now let's break this down. Yes, the A's have been trying to leave arguably the worst stadium in baseball, the Oakland Coliseum, for a very long time now. The first proposal for a new ballpark was way back in 2001. Since then, there have been a total of 16 proposals between the A's and the city of Oakland. These all fell through for various reasons. They vary between the city of Oakland rejecting sites to even college boards and a Chinatown neighborhood turning down site proposals due to proximity to property. The most recent attempt was for the Howard Terminal Ballpark. These negotiations started in 2018 with the A's proposing this location. The A's offered to finance 100% of the $1 billion it would cost to build the stadium, as well as listing out the dozens of benefits this would bring to Oakland and the waterfront area. However, by 2021, MLB was growing increasingly annoyed at the slow progress of the project. This caused MLB to allow the A's to explore options outside of Oakland. To make matters worse, by 2023, the city of Oakland stated that they were rejected in critical funding it planned to use to offset costs for a proposed multi-billion-dollar waterfront stadium district to rehome the A's. The city was denied nearly $183 million from the U.S. Department of Transportation, which was designed to support projects like this, claiming that although it was just a fraction of the estimated $12 billion to complete the Howard Terminal project, it was crucial to minimize the burden on taxpayers. However, even so, the A's ownership has been deliberately tanking the team for decades. Since the 2000 season, they have never had a payroll that was league average. Often coming in dead last or close to last in payroll for the league, the A's have essentially become a farm team for the rest of baseball to take from. They consistently let star players walk and seemingly have no interest in improving the team. Famously, they are known for Moneyball, a strategy that used statistical metrics to build a playoff team. However, that only worked when the A's were the only ones doing it. Once all the other teams caught on, it doesn't work as well with the available player pool the A's used to look at began to dwindle. Ultimately, their most famous strategy was a way to try to win without spending anywhere near even the other bottom teams were spending. To put into perspective as to how exactly cheap the A's ownership has been, the biggest contract ever given out in franchise history belongs to Eric Chavez. He signed in 2004 for 6 years at $66 million. Now let's look at the A's current ownership. His name is John Fisher, son of Doris and Don Fisher. Yes, the very same co-founders of the Gap Inc. John is an established real estate investor and manager of his family's multi-billion-dollar investment portfolio. He joined the real estate developer Lewis Wolf in joint ownership of the A's back in 2005. In November of 2016, Wolf sold his 10% share of the A's to Fisher, which gave Fisher full ownership of the team. Forbes has reported that John is worth $2.2 billion. This ranks him 16th overall in owner net worth. To put into perspective, in 2023, the A's payroll is estimated at $59 million. John is worth more than the Rockies owner Rich Monfort with a payroll of $176 million, Astros owner Jim Crane, who has a payroll of $191 million, the Rangers' Ray C. Davis with a payroll of $196 million, and even Bob Castellini of the Reds, the poorest owner in baseball, is outspending John Fisher in payroll by almost $30 million. When you don't invest in yourself, how can you expect the people of the city you play in to support and invest in your team? Since 2006, the A's attendance has been ranked either last in baseball, close to last, or even at their peak attendance years, not even cracking the top 20. In 2022, the A's averaged 9,973 fans per game, which is actually higher than their 2021 average of 8,768. Fans are not typically going to support a team where their favorite players are never going to get re-signed, and ownership has made it clear that if winning comes at the cost of spending money, they want no part of it. Even still, A's fans were planning a reverse boycott. Yes, a reverse boycott. The plan was to try to pack the Oakland Coliseum on a weeknight to show MLB and everyone else that the fans are not the problem with the A's. They picked June 13th against the Rays because they wanted to pack the stadium for a game that would normally have very poor attendance. Just a few days later, the A's announced they were leaving Oakland. In Don Fisher's memoirs that were acquired by the Chronicle, he recalled that John was anxious in the early 90s about rumors of the San Francisco Giants moving to Florida. John was a huge Giants fan and told his father, "I think we ought to try to put a deal together to keep the Giants here." His father then told him, "I'm not interested in it. If you're interested, you take care of it. I'm not going to pay any attention to it." The deal was approved. Don and John Fisher became part of a large group of investors and businessmen who owned the Giants. And here we are 30 plus years later with John doing the same thing he bought into to stop the Giants from doing, ripping a team away from its city and fans. John and the A's are playing a different kind of Moneyball, except this version of Moneyball isn't for the fans or for anybody else, but ownership to make a profit. Thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on the whole thing? Sound off in the comments below. Catch you in the next video. Later.
The world famous radio shopping show weekday on 1400 KSHP North Las Vegas and KSHP.com. KSHP North Las Vegas 107.1 FM 1400
You're listening
AM,
to the
829,
Sports
680
Byline
North Las
USA
Vegas and
Broadcast
online
Network.
at KSHP.com.
USA News, I'm Ryan Daniels. The Department of Justice is formally announcing charges against former President Trump.
Today, an indictment was unsealed.
charging Donald J. Trump with felony violations of our national security laws, as well as participating in a conspiracy to obstruct justice.
The charges are related to Trump's handling of classified documents. A federal judge appointed by the ex-president will initially preside over his case. That's District Judge Eileen Cannon in Miami. All at the same time, an aide to the former president is also being indicted. Reports say Walt Nauta is facing charges in connection with the Mar-a-Lago case. Trump set to appear in court on Tuesday. The Archdiocese of St. Louis will pay out one of the largest individual settlements related to the priest sex abuse scandal. The $1 million settlement was reached Thursday between the Archdiocese and an alleged victim, a former priest, Gary Wolkin. Wolkin's accused of abusing the victim when he was a boy. Smoke may have delayed the event, but it isn't stopping the White House from hosting its largest Pride celebration ever.
The celebration takes place Saturday on the South Lawn, and LGBTQ families from across the country are expected to attend. The event was originally scheduled for Thursday night, but was pushed back to tomorrow because of the smoke from the Canadian wildfires. I'm Dave Collins.
Oklahoma Senator James Lankford's filing a bill to address the rise of artificial intelligence.
Lankford joined fellow Republican Mike Braun and Democrat Gary Peters to introduce a bill Thursday that would require federal agencies to tell people when they're using AI to interact with them. The bill would also mandate that the agencies allow people to appeal decisions made by AI. It was one of two bipartisan AI bills introduced in the Senate Thursday, with the other establishing an office to ensure that the U.S. stays at the forefront of artificial intelligence technology. I'm Lisa Taylor.
I'm Ryan Daniels, USA News.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer. And again, airfare.
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-5141. 800-215-5141. 800-215-5141. That's 800-215-5141.
Horses are working out, but
ZenWorld Premium CBD offers full and broad spectrum CBD oil, extracts, and capsules, which are designed to help you feel your best. Their products are sourced from the best organic hemp and natural ingredients on the market and are tested for quality, purity, and potency. They have a full range of items from health and wellness to beauty to pets. Call 725-205-9223. Visit online at zenworld.com or stop by their location at 9895 South Maryland Parkway and Silverado Range Parkway. Mention KSHP for 10% off in store or use code KSHP online for 15% off.
Live from Las Vegas, this is the Wayne Coy Show.
Yeah, certainly a case of miss a little, miss a lot this last week. I don't even know where to start. Got to recap everything that happened in Carson City and let you know where we're at, which was adjournment, okay? Yesterday they said, no, you know what? Special session number 2. I think we've been here long enough. We have to bring our baby with us to work. We've heard from everybody. Certainly don't have the votes for this thing to go through. No new stadium votes, yes. No new stadium votes, no. Everything hanging in the balance, adjourned until Monday. That's exactly where we are. But how did we get here? What did we miss in the week that was?
So members of the committee, if you have questions, please hit your request to speak buttons and we will go on through and we will begin with Senator Titus.
There was a mention that the average life for this obligation is for 30 years. What's the average life of a baseball stadium? How long do teams stay in one community?
Senator, for the record, Jeremy Aguero. Madam Chair, is it appropriate just to respond directly?
You may go straight to the member.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The answer to your question is there isn't a specific answer. We have baseball stadiums and teams that have existed for a very, very long time. Obviously, the Oakland A's have had a number of homes, beginning in Philadelphia as one of the original American
by the way,
League,
tonight's
baseball
drinking
teams.
game is,
Obviously,
for the record, Jeremy Aguero. Anytime you hear that, drink up.
than they were in years past. And so we certainly believe that the term would be 30 years is not unreasonable. In addition to that, there's a non-relocation agreement in this particular case. And so two things to sort of mention. One, the bill as currently drafted requires not only that the facility is built to a first-class premier standard among the best, if not the best, of any Major League Baseball stadium, it also requires that the team commit to maintain that standard throughout the life of the facility. So the hope is that there's sufficient capital allocation that, frankly, the A's will be responsible for, combined with the fact that a non-relocation agreement would ensure that the term of the financing and the term of the commitment are equal.
I want to get this correct. You've all called us in here for a special session and are asking minimally for the state to give you all $36 million per year for the next 5 years for a taxpayer-funded stadium at the same time that the governor has vetoed funding for summer school, a bill to support children's mental health, a bill requiring paid family leave, all because the governor said we couldn't afford them. Can you explain to me why we need to provide hundreds of millions of dollars for a billionaire team to come to the Las Vegas Strip on some of the most valuable property in the world if we can't provide funding for critical resources like summer school and healthcare? And to follow up on that, I guess my specific question is can you explain to me why this is such a good deal that we should agree that no taxes generated on the corner of Las Vegas Boulevard and Tropicana should go to these critical state and local services for the next 30 years?
Senator Steve Hill, we don't really have standing to talk about some of the questions that you asked that are outside of this. The reason that we are asking for this proposal are really those two that I talked about at the beginning. Opportunity for the state to help create thousands of good paying jobs. And we know that the state will have more money to provide for the services that you mentioned if you do the deal than if you don't.
Sorry, if you feel my frustration, it is because I'm incredibly frustrated. When we first heard this bill in the joint money committees, we expressed concerns about the community benefits. And this might be a question for Ms. King, or this might be a question you would be able to answer. After that hearing, lobbyist after lobbyist after lobbyist came and told us and said they heard our concerns. They were working on our concerns, specifically a community benefits agreement advisory board. We are now 10 days removed from that hearing in a second special session that has forced taxpayers to spend another $250,000 a day to keep us here. And yet what is before us today is the same exact bill that we heard 10 days ago. To say I'm extremely disappointed that no work has been done on this bill over the past 10 days is an understatement. And I appreciate Ms. King's list, but can you explain what your statutory commitment is to address these concerns in this legislative body? Because we are literally looking at the same bill that was presented. And I'm assuming I'm not the only legislator in this building that expressed concerns about the lack of commitment in statute to some of these community benefits. And to say that I'm disappointed that I had a list of like 6 or 10 things that was read to me today that's not included in this new language is a lot. So if you can kind of address some of that lack of incorporation of the feedback that you heard from this legislature.
Senator Wynn, Steve Hill, the commitment that you've heard today is real. We did mention at our last hearing that we felt like the specifics of that agreement put in legislation would be potentially problematic. It may cause programs to be locked in when the community changes, the needs change. Obviously, the legislation and what is in it is the decision of this body and not ours. So we're
the debt service that has been established through the treasurer. And I don't know if you guys can answer this, but I think, you know, I don't know if you guys have been watching the wonderful period of time that we have been in this building. Special session yesterday, today, and then probably even sine die before, where there were all kinds of conversations about prudent behavior, fiscally prudent behavior, and acting appropriately within the confines of the money that we have. This particular line gives legislative power to the treasurer to basically touch the unreserved fund balance of the general fund of the state if something goes wrong. It stuck out to me, number one, because it's a legislative power that basically this bill would then transfer to another person, such as the treasurer. Do you guys have any thoughts or concerns about this particular power shift in this bill? It's probably not appropriate for you to answer, Mr. Aguero.
Senator Neal, for the record, Jeremy Aguero. Again, you're right. I don't have standing to talk about power shifts or something along those lines. That provision is designed, along with a number of other provisions, to ensure that there's sufficient security in the event that something isn't there. It's also among a list of, requesting an appropriation from this body. So the structure is worked. We worked with bond counsel to make sure that something was crafted that would meet all of the requirements. Beyond that, Senator, I don't have any other comment.
Yeah, I figured that. So I guess this would be more commentary. I have a problem with, number one, the legislature being put on the hook for $25 million. And then on top of that, being then put on the hook to allow someone other than the legislature to touch the unreserved general fund balance of this state in order to secure a stadium for someone who I believe can afford to pay for it themselves. And so I'll leave it there. And then I'm sure members in the committee have other questions, but I have other tax questions later.
When did we start talking about potentially hosting this team here in Las Vegas? When was the first time that thought ignited? Do we know? When did that conversation start?
Senator Steve Hill. I would say that the conversation started in earnest in early February.
Early February of this year. So in early February of this year is when we first have that idea. And then 10 days ago is when we have an opportunity to see some language and have some type of conversation. And it is my suggestion that I believe, in having had an opportunity just to do some basic research, that at times we've invested a significant amount of time, much longer than several months, in just the conversations about transferring a player. And we're talking about transferring a whole team and utilizing Nevadans' money to do that. And we've been here for about 10 days in trying to see that language. So it's concerning to me that at times we could say that a conversation for one player had more time invested, more vetting than this possibility. So that is a concern. But I want to go to Section 24 of the Community Benefits Program as I started off the conversation. And Ms. King, I know we mentioned a little bit about what we're hoping to do and spoke broadly about that. What I'm curious about is what did those community benefit programs look like in other states? So let's start off with Oakland. Do we have firm numbers? How much money was invested into the community? How many schools did we work with? how many workforce development programs existed, how much did we invest into technology, how did we work with the community, infrastructure, boys and girls. I'm just trying to understand, here's where we're starting off at. Here's everything we did in Oakland. And so that we can get a comparison to from what we've done before, because that's the track record, to the new partnership we're forming with Nevada.
Senator Yolanda King, for the record, I'm going to ask Ms. Aker to come up exactly what they're doing in the community.
Please, thank you.
Catherine Aker with the A's. Yes, so at a high level, some of the work that we have done. So we annually work with 1,600 nonprofit organizations throughout Northern California. And that includes financial donations. So that's everything from grants or gifts, cash gifts to them. We do complimentary tickets. We do in-kind donations. So we average about 1,600 organizations we work with on an annual basis. Our grants right now are about $1.1 to $1.3 million. And all of the money, we have a nonprofit. Our community fund is our our charitable arm, and all of the money that comes in goes out. So all of the expenses to our charitable fund are covered by the A's. So we try to break even. All of the money that comes in, we go out through our programs as well as our gifts. We have approximately 56 Little Leagues that we are working with throughout Northern California right now. That's 21,000 youth participate in our youth baseball and softball programs. That's everything from uniforms to coaching clinics to player clinics, free tickets, coming out to the games, scholarship programs, and things like that. As I mentioned earlier, 800 classrooms participate in our literacy and math programs. This year alone, we did over $1 million pages were read through our literacy programs. We also have a number of our players that participate, so they support our initiatives and volunteer, as well as our player run initiatives in the community. We have given about $1 million annually to the food insecurity, to the food bank as well. No, I'm sorry, that's not true. I apologize, because it's not $1 million annually. It's $1.1 million worth of food to local food banks. We've volunteered over the last probably decade about 20,000 hours in the community, and overall about 250,000 youth have participated in our programs.
Thank you for that. And Madam Chair, I apologize that I'm taking up so much time. And I would appreciate, and I think this body would appreciate, and I think Nevadans in general would appreciate, if that's your starting point, if that's what you're doing already, I think that's something we can put into the NRS. Guaranteed 1.1 million in food banks, guaranteed 1.1 million in grants, guaranteed 20,000 human hours in this, guaranteed 15, because that's what you're doing already. And it lays a foundation for a relationship that's going to start where you are now. And it's not forcing your hand to do so much more, but it shows that good faith relationship. And it doesn't tie your hand to the evolving needs of the community, because unfortunately, food insecurity is something we're going to have. And we're not saying which food bank. Community service is something we're always going to have to do, and it doesn't say specifically which community organization we have to do it with. I mean, we're putting into the NRS very specific things that we're obligated to do. And we also just had a presentation with all these projections and these very specific numbers of how many jobs we think we're going to create. I think on the other side of it, we can say that publicly, because I think when we talk about the community benefits program, we speak about it and we tippy-toe and we're so cautious. And you have in this room individuals who went through a negotiation on Allegiant Stadium. We did it through a special session. But I'll tell you, there was one year of humans having conversations individually with legislators at coffee shops. It was 1 year of individuals having conversations individually or in groups with different folk, different perspectives. And even with that 1 year, I'll tell you, the community benefits program that was promised was not delivered. So we are incredibly hesitant, not because of who the partners you are or because of what you're presenting. It has nothing to do with you. It's just that you have folk that were in this room and were promised a lot of things. And the community benefits program sounded great, but very little of it was actually delivered. So when you hear from us pushing back and saying we would love to see some of this in the NRS, it's not because we're suggesting that we don't trust the good faith efforts and we don't trust that we're going to have a great partnership. And that unfortunately some of us or just remembering what just happened a few years ago.
I've been here for 6 years. I don't sit on the money committee, so I am coming to this with a little bit different perspective. And I know that my constituents are concerned about the financial impact and the financial structure of this deal. And I think it is very difficult to understand for the average person. I am struggling to understand it. So I was hoping that you could look at Section 7 with me of the bill. And I'll read it out loud for everybody's benefit. It defines bonds, means one or more series of general obligation bonds additionally secured by pledged revenues authorized to be issued by the county pursuant to subsection 2 of section 34 of this act and the local government securities law, and any general obligation bonds additionally secured by pledged revenues issued to refund all or a portion of such bonds issued pursuant to section 2 of section 34 of this act and the local government securities law. Can you explain that to us in terms that regular people understand?
Senator Scheibel, for the record, Jeremy Aguero. I'll try to. The state of Nevada, and it's both its state and local governments, issues bonds all the time. It essentially takes a revenue stream that we have today and essentially utilizes that revenue stream to bring dollars forward in order to be able to build a building or build a school. I guess a school is a building, or do other things that we might require for debt. Not unlike when my family purchased a home, for example. You have revenues that are set aside to pay for the principal and interest, and then you have other revenues that are generated. Essentially those revenues that are set aside to pay that principal and interest go to repay bonds that are issued. In this particular case, those bonds are estimated to be about $120 million. So that is this debt that's going to be created, issued by Clark County. We then have revenues that are generated by the project. Those are like the income we just talked about that are going to be dedicated and set aside into an account. They'll be utilized to make payments on those bonds over time. There are specific requirements in the definition that you just read. You've got the idea of a bond. That's that debt instrument that goes out. There's also other terminology that's included in there, this idea of being able to refund a bond, for example. Imagine for that, if much like my home, if the interest rate goes down, sometimes I want to refinance that debt, right? I can't take on more debt, but what I can do is get the advantage of a lower interest rate, for example. That simply preserves the opportunity for the county to come in and say, hey, look, interest rates have dropped. Let's reduce the amount of interest that we're paying and continue to pay the project over the same term of the debt that would exist. You also see that there are specific laws that are included, that are referenced there. There are laws that draw the foundation in terms of what the state can do and local governments can do in terms of the issuance of that debt. We have to follow those. You will also find in the document that there are some provisions that you're excluding it from, right? Things like the total amount of debt that's taken out by a local government. This doesn't count against it because it's considered a special obligation for purposes of that. It does sound complicated, and oftentimes laws do that, at least for me. They have a tendency to feel somewhat complicated, but it is debt that is essentially secured by revenues, and those bonds are ultimately issued by Clark County, and with all of the reserves and the coverage that we've talked about throughout the presentation.
Why are they leaving Oakland? Okay, there's been a strong relationship there for decades. Now, the whole area is apparently going downhill. Mr. Fisher has been criticized for not putting enough dollars back into the stadium or his own team. And now he's going to relocate. And basically, the commitment that they had to the community that undoubtedly at one time was strong is going away. And one of the selling points you're presenting to us today is that the Oakland A's are going to come here and be the Las Vegas A's and have a strong commitment to the community. But I have this sensation that they're abandoning a community that they undoubtedly made very similar commitments to in the past. Now, obviously, I apologize because you can't answer those questions because you're only dealing with the the Nevada side of it. But from my perspective as a legislator, I want to see, because if this happens, this is a 30-year tax arrangement and thing. I mean, somebody, I'll be dead in 30 years more than likely. So, but I want to make sure that the decisions we make today, which will commit us to these tax abatement programs and so forth are going to be honored down the road. And I'm looking at the track record of the Oakland A's and Mr. Fisher.
Senator Hansen, Steve Hill. Just to be clear, the A's have been in Oakland since the late 60s. They've had a over 50-year run in that city. And obviously the stadium issues that they have had, the Raiders have had, have caused them to look elsewhere and choose Las Vegas. The way this legislation is written, if they leave inside of that 30-year commitment, they have to pay off all the outstanding bonds in order to do so. If they leave, we will have a baseball stadium that in the majority, the A's have paid for, and they will have paid off all the bonds that are outstanding.
Many of us have shared our frustration that we just finished a session and now we're back here to consider a tax giveaway for a multi-billionaire without concessions made from the Athletics in terms of the ramifications that might occur from such consideration of a proposal. As you may know, the stadium that is proposed and other sites that you have considered is in my district. And I have heard from residents that there is no direct response right now as to how to address the workers that will be displaced from those who are at the Tropicana and the traffic safety concerns that will be further worsened because of this current proposal. And I understand that you documented that, but it still does not show enough progress, at least from my concern. And I don't know if any of you have ever had the chance to drive on Frank Sinatra Drive on a Friday night at 6 p.m., but I sure have because it's my route to home and it's not fun. And it's saddening that we have this proposal, and we had proposals during the session. For instance, I carried a proposal that was going to provide coverage for kids who are undocumented for their cancer treatment. We couldn't even get that done, but now we have a tax giveaway, millions of dollars. And so it's kind of frustrating, at least from my side. Having said that, I do have a few questions that perhaps you guys could answer because I think it's important. And my last question is actually for the leadership of the Athletics because I want to hear from them directly. So if the president is here, I would prefer for him to start walking down because I think it's important for the taxpayers to have that question answered. So my first two questions, with regard to the bill proposal, in reviewing section 20 of the bill, it states that the Board of County Commissioners shall create a resort corridor homeless prevention and assistance fund. Can you help provide background as to why this proposal was accepted? To me, limiting it just to the resort corridor sounds like you're just finding a way to bus homeless folks from the tourist areas and instead ignoring the true root of the problem. And, you know, for me, I personally believe that because my district encompasses the Las Vegas Strip and surrounding areas, I would request that the language adds downtown Las Vegas and surrounding neighborhoods to the section of the bill, because we know that this problem extends beyond the Strip corridor. There are neighborhoods, for instance, down the street from my house near Las Vegas Boulevard and Oakland that could have support services enacted in them. And so I just want to hear your background as to why this was included specifically for the resort corridor.
Senator Donate, Jeremy Aguero. The brief answer to your question, it was originally created because there was a desire to make sure that if the project overperformed, that the community would benefit. I think there was a recognition, a request by Clark County to create such a fund that would capture any of that overperformance by the project. And this is what was here. Perhaps in the drafting, I wasn't very elegant in terms of its design. The idea didn't mean that we're only going to have the money be dedicated to the resort corridor. It simply meant that the dollars were collected in the resort corridor. So to the extent that a clarification relative to that would be helpful to make sure that this intent is clear, more than happy to entertain any revision that would homelessness is not a localized problem. The revenue generated will be localized.
I don't know if the leadership of the Oakland A's. Thank you for being here.
Senator, yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you so much. Dave Cavell, president of the A's. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. If you could restate the question, it'd be great.
Sure. So this is my final question. It's directly to you. So on page 39 of your presentation, you listed the tax revenue sources, and there's several tax revenue sources that will be included in the Sports and Entertainment and Improvement District. In one of them, you've listed the live entertainment tax, and that's something that is going to be captured. And so this question is directly to you as the leadership of the Oakland Athletics and your future presence. in the legislation before us, I find it a coincidence that there are funding considerations that will take certain tax percentages away from our county, and that's a problem. Having said that, I believe there's an equity issue that exists in our state, and I want to make sure that I get this from you directly. Given the gaps that we have seen in conversations we've had throughout this session, it is clear that not everyone pays for the live entertainment tax. For example, in my district, which is also where the stadium is going to be located, we have venues like Sand Dollar. It's a local bar that features live bands, and they pay the live entertainment tax. But considerations like yours, athletic stadiums or events, would not have to pay for it. So I want to get this just off on the record directly to you. Would you agree that it is important to maintain equity across all businesses, and that you will commit to willingly pay for the live entertainment tax for baseball games and athletic events featured at this facility in the near future?
Well, I appreciate the question. Obviously, we're bringing the baseball team to Southern Nevada, over $1 billion in private capital. We're looking for a partnership, and we want to make sure that we're going to continue to invest in a variety of ways to improve the situation for small businesses, medium-sized businesses, in a variety of fashions beyond the live entertainment tax. So I think by bringing additional tourists and other ways that generate tax dollars for the community, we think our project can actually be a net positive for the community, plus the quality of life that comes with a baseball team.
Thank you so much for that. But that didn't answer my question. So again, it's a yes or no. Will you willingly commit to pay the live entertainment tax in the near future to fix the equity issue that exists?
Like I said, we are committed to being a great community partner in Southern Nevada, and investing, over $1 billion to ensure
that still does not answer the question, sir. I'm asking you directly, yes or no. Will you commit to paying the equity issue that we see existence for the live entertainment tax?
The legislation as it's currently envisioned, does not contemplate that. The project is based on, what is currently proposed. And so we've been focusing on that as really the path forward for the team and for the community.
Thank you. I mean, I find that disingenuous. I asked you directly, you're going to be capturing this as part of your legislation, yet you can't even commit to doing it yourself. And so I think that's something that the taxpayers must know of this state, but I divert my questions for the next round. Thank you.
If we have a mega resort that's going to be built, not a matter of if, but when, and I would imagine it's going to happen soon, I would say before 2030, what is the approximate, just give me a range of low to high, of what the Wynn, Bellagio, and Venetian as an average contributes to the general fund of the state of Nevada every year? I guess.
Senator Stone, Jeremy Aguero, I don't know that I can give you those specific numbers, but I can tell you that from the analysis that if we look at visitor-related activities and our resort industry generally, it's about 43% of general fund revenues are either directly or indirectly related to our tourism-based economy.
So is it fair to say that if this becomes a mega resort, it's going to add a significant sum of money to the coffers, which you have not contemplated as a part of your economics? Is that correct?
Senator, for the record, Jeremy Aguero, that's correct, sir.
Okay. And then I want to talk about naming rights. Who is going to be the beneficiary of the income from the naming rights? Will that be income that is going to be going to pay off the bonds, et cetera, or is that going to be going to the owner of the team?
Senator Stone, Steve Hill, that would be revenue that would be.
That would be for the A's, okay? And I also want you to talk about bringing a Major League Baseball team to any city. It's my understanding that if we want a team, whether it's the A's or another team, if we have to build a stadium, that it is a Major League Baseball policy that there has to be a public-private partnership. Is that correct?
Senator Stone, Steve Hill, I don't know if that is stated policy of Major League Baseball. At the proposal that we have presented.
Okay.
I'm willing to assume that at one day, it may be we reach 27,000 visitors. My question is, do we have enough time to reach it in order to make up the average of 27,000 visitors, right? Because if we lag in years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we only have an extra 2,500 seats to be able to make up in perpetuity, right? I mean, depending on how quickly we get there, we never may be able to average 27,500 unless we start in years 1 and 2 pretty close to that number.
Senator Harris, for the record, Jeremy Aguero, you're right. You're 100% right. The other part of it is those first years are probably going to be the years that it's easiest to fill that stadium. It's going to be the shiny new project on the Las Vegas Strip. The ability to sell that place out over those first 3 years, yeah, I like our chances relative to that.
Okay. I'll just throw out one more scenario and then I have a question about traffic, Chair, if that's okay. So even if we assume that attendance is on average doubled over the first 3 years, that's 18,000 average for 3 years, so 54,000 people. 27,000 times 3 is 81,000. So 81,000 minus 54,000 means we'd have to make up 27,000 more visitors. 27,000 visitors over 3 years is another 9,000 people over the next 3 years. So you'd have to then do 27,000 in the 3 years after that, plus 9,000, 36,000 people, which is beyond the capacity, in order to have an average in the first 6 years.
Senator Harris, for the record, Jeremy Aguero, again, you're starting the math that you're presenting with the estimate that they would be operating in the bottom quartile of Major League Baseball teams. If that's the premise, you're absolutely correct. The analysis that's being done suggests that they will go from where they are today, which for the record is dead last, right, to something that's in the 50th percentile by building an asset, by coming to a different location and giving the team a fighting chance of success.
And I think that's fair, but I also think it's fair for me and fairly generous for me to be assuming that they're going to double their attendance in the first 3 years. But that's I guess, a difference in assumptions. But I felt that that was a fairly generous assumption. And even with that, we've got quite a bit of work to do. In this report that I have here prepared by, it looks like, Kimley Horn, there are several recommended infrastructure improvements, including realigning Reno Avenue curved intersection as a major four-way signaled intersection, widening Reno Avenue to provide eastbound and northbound dual left turn lanes, widening Reno Avenue to provide westbound and southbound dual left turn lanes, modifying the median along Las Vegas Boulevard to lengthen southbound to eastbound dual left turn lanes at Reno, installing northbound right turn lanes and a new project access driveway along Las Vegas Boulevard, and approximately 5 or 6 other things that are being suggested to be done to handle the traffic. Has the A's committed to engaging in any of these infrastructure projects?
Senator Harris, Steve Hill. This relates to the high impact project process that the county goes through. That has to be completed to the county's satisfaction prior to this project moving forward. So that conversation will happen during that period of time.
Okay, I'll try one more time. So has the A's committed to doing what is necessary when it comes to infrastructure, maybe even the recommendations based upon the study that they commissioned, in order to ensure that the traffic is taken care of ahead of this stadium opening?
Senator Harrison, Dave, I'm wrong here, but they have committed to do what it takes to meet that high impact project plan that will be put in place by the county. The County Public Works needs to weigh in on Kimley Horn's study in that conversation, but they have committed to do what they need to do.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Heard that correctly. So we're expecting like a 3 times return on investment for this. We have the experience of the Allegiant Stadium where we have almost twice the visitation, the incremental visitation that as we expected. And when you think about Las Vegas, in my mind, when I think about the Raiders, the Knights, now we've got F1, I think this is another piece that makes it sort of the ultimate professional team, sports destination. And so, since you're the head of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, do you think there's a draw for just that? And the last thing I'll say is, when I think about baseball versus a lot of other sports, it's affordable. Families get to go. When you think about the local families or like a school, they can go to events like this. So it's this big destination that, and Las Vegas is really an international destination. If you ever say you're from Nevada, they always say Las Vegas. They don't say Reno. They say Las Vegas. That sometimes people know Tahoe,
but like the driver of it really increasing in a very positive way, the visibility and the attraction of Las Vegas. And then in a local way, families can go to these games. They can afford these games. So maybe you can speak a little bit to that. Thank you.
Senator Gansert, Steve Hill. There are a number of benefits that are harder to quantify that are not in these numbers. The reputation of Las Vegas as a city who can figure out how to say yes, who can make these things happen, that matters. The message that it sends when these professional sports leagues choose our city, it highlights the city. We get better marketing from having these events, these teams, than we could ever possibly afford to buy. That value is not in the numbers either. And the momentum that we have in becoming the sports and entertainment capital of the world, this is another huge step, more energy in creating that image, that environment, that reality. And we are separating ourselves from other cities so that this can become more permanent, more stable, and we think that's important as well.
Just to answer too, that like family, like affordability, the average ticket versus maybe some of the other sporting events we have, if you don't mind just commenting on that. Thank you.
Senator Gansert, Steve Hill. Certainly, and we will have 81 baseball games a year plus playoff games. That allows approximately 2.5 million, maybe a little more seats per year to be available. Seats at this stadium, there will be seats available in the stadium in the $15 range, which is just not possible for others. I mean, it's the comparison's just different. There are fewer seats, or there are many fewer games in other leagues, and so it makes it a family event that's very affordable.
Regarding the peripheral work, the road work, and various things that need to do to accommodate, and there's a principle in development called concurrence. So if you're having a project that then has impacts, they have to mitigate those impacts in concurrence with the project opening. And you indicated that they were committed to do whatever it is they're going to do. So my question is, partly, is the county paying for that? The city? Is the owners of the A's going to put in part of the cost for some of those projects and various things? Is that going to be covered by some of the things in this agreement, either the project agreement or the community, the local business purposes, et cetera, small local businesses? Is all that going to be covered, or is that separate and just goes from there? And I would hope that at least those parts of the public projects would not be excluded from the bidding provisions that you have here. I'm just curious how that all meshes together.
Senator Daley, Steve Hill. I would imagine, I know any public work project is going to go through the entire process. That's not addressed or changed by this bill. The conversation will happen between the A's and Clark County, and you're right, they will be required to mitigate all of the concerns or impacts really that the stadium causes in that area. The county has agreed to a $25 million credit on the cost of that mitigation. That cost is not reflected in the $1.5 billion number, and will, other than that $25 million, be borne by the A's.
I noticed that there is a one-time construction fiscal impact of, I think, 38.8 million based on the estimated sales tax. So how both of these revenue sources will be pledged to paying off the county bonds, but will the state and local governments, and specifically school districts, see any tax revenue associated with the stadium construction, or will it all be pledged to bond replacement?
Senator Don Darrell Loop, for the record, Jeremy Aguero. During the construction, all of those dollars would be utilized for the creation of the the repayment of the bonds and the creation of the reserves that we talked about before. Because there's no operations that are occurring, there would be no other revenue that would inure to state, local governments, or school districts.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to understand. This isn't, necessarily always my wheelhouse.
Some of my colleagues have asked about the traffic situation and the challenges that intersection has with the I-15, the construction, and when big events happen. Has Nevada Department of Transportation been consulted about, what additional traffic challenges and problems need to be solved if this bill passes and if we start construction on that stadium? Because I know that in the conversation on the Allegiant Stadium, it seemed like they were here and there was a lot of conversation about what the plans they had and being able to handle the traffic going to the football stadium. And I just wonder if they're part of this.
Senator Orenshall, for the record, Jeremy Aguero, I remember those conversations, right? There was a lot. We talked a lot about parking and transportation and all those things. But let's recall that when we talked about Allegiant Stadium here, they didn't have a site, right? We didn't know where they were going to be located when that took place. So a lot of those were sort of in the context of building something as large as a 60,000 seat stadium, 65,000 seat stadium. The context of those conversations are exactly why the legislation that's presented to you today is structured the way that it is. It actually requires that the developer of the stadium go to Clark County and enter into a high impact project agreement that contemplates transportation, utilities, air traffic, all of those things, because they're not settled today. We don't have all of those answers. More directly to the question that you're asking, the Nevada Department of Transportation is also reflected in the bill as drafted and requires that if there are infrastructure requirements that NDOT identifies as being something that needs to be mitigated, that the A's, the developer in this case, have an affirmative obligation to work not only with the local government, but also work with NDOT to mitigate those infrastructure impacts on the community.
So the projections for construction jobs at Allegiant Stadium were 11,000. And I remember us talking about shiny new objects, I think it was with Faraday. But the project only produced 900 construction jobs in each year of construction, so 2,700 jobs.
Senator Spearman, for the record, Jeremy Aguero. Again, we're talking about person years of employment, and we're talking about direct, indirect, and induced employment overall. And I would suggest that if you look at the number of individuals that were employed in terms of Allegiant Stadium, I think there were substantial. If you look at the number of suppliers that supported that project that may not have been part of their direct payroll, they were substantial. If you look at the amount of wages and salaries that were paid on that project and the average hourly wage that was paid on that project and what the ripple effects were associated with that, it was substantial. I know that there's been questions relative to the total number of employees and those type of things. Again, it's very difficult to measure those indirect and those induced impacts because there's no way for me to understand how many doctors or folks that are working at restaurants or grocery stores that have a job as a result of someone's secondary spending as a result of they got a paycheck. The way that the construction estimates are generated is based on the total amount of payroll that is associated with the project and what our average wage is in the community. And I would suggest both of those support both Allegiant Stadium and this project will have a very significant impact on our construction workforce.
Thank you for that. And my questions are hypothetical because what we're dealing with here is hypothetical. The third one is on the 2022 LVCVA visitor profile, it shows that people said they visited Las Vegas for sporting events at about 3%. And let me pull that up because there were other things, I think it's like 44% for visiting relatives and friends, 12%, gambling, 6%, social event, 6%, corporate meetings, 5%, sporting events, 3%, passing through, 3%, other business, 3%. And so to the point that my colleague from Senate District 11 was making, if this was just last year on LVCVA's profile, 3% of the people said they visited most of the people, 3% of them said they visited to attend a sporting event. Now please understand, as we're flushing this out, because the people that we represent don't expect us to come here and rubber stamp. And so we have to have answers to this, because right now, the only thing we're talking about are what ifs or assumptions. Granted, there may be some type of actuarial table that was constructed to get to this, but we're talking about the reality now. So please talk to me about how we get to stadium attendance, 2.6 million, average annual using per event estimates. And again, estimates, unless it changed in the last couple of days, estimates is another way of saying assumptions.
Senator Spearman, Steve Hill. The number that I think you're referring to is the number of incremental visitors that are in attendance at events. So they're saying that's the reason they came to Las Vegas, and there's a variety of potential reasons that they could reply to there. So that's simply reflective of the 405,000 person number, visitor number that Mr. Aguero has cited, not the 2.6 million total potential seats that are available for all the events at the stadium.
Reading from a letter that Representative Barbara Lee posted today, I write regarding the future of the Oakland Athletics Baseball Club in the East Bay. Many of my constituents in the East Bay and I are increasingly frustrated with the coming apparent failure of the team and Major League Baseball to deal in good faith. Let me jump down to the third paragraph, because I think someone asked this. I believe strongly that our community also provides value to the A's. Oakland has been the site for this franchise for a great deal of time. And then she goes on to say about some things that they had already started doing in preparation, some things that the Oakland A's asked for, and they were in the process of doing that. But now the frustration is coming because they're seeking a new location. So that's part one. But the other one would be, we've heard from someone about the community benefit. But as I look at this, I think the players are very close to the bottom of the pay scale. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I looked at it wrong, but that would be it. And when we talked about, and I can't remember who it was, asked, what is the investment? And right now, if you're asking us to give this much money, there has to be some awareness on the part of the owner and any other interested financial partners who have that fiduciary responsibility. There has to be some awareness of what the commitment, the dollar amount commitment is. Because absent that, the only thing we continue to talk about are just hyperboles. And so, as my colleague to my right said, we hope not to go to another pandemic, but the what ifs. And if we can't, if those payments can't be met and they fall back on the county, if that happens, then we're left, with the shrugging of the shoulders. Well, I don't know what happened. And so my questions, and I believe that the questions of my colleagues are really designed to say, we have to do our due diligence, because this is a lot of money, and the community benefits really don't make up for for the lack of money for youth mental health. Now, we passed a lottery that's going to come back again next year, but it's going to be like 6 years before that actually takes place. The here and the now. We don't have the money to increase access, not just access, affordable access, but quality access in our healthcare delivery system. We don't have the money right now to put towards eliminating or at least mitigating homelessness. I have a bill that was about women veterans being housed and women who are coming out of domestic violence situations, formerly incarcerated women, and women who are 50 plus, housing insecure. We don't have money for any of that. And we just closed out the session, so it's going to be another 18 months unless we get called back for a third session, special session. So it's going to be that long. And so my concern, and I will tell you with all honesty, my concern and my hesitation is based upon the lack of certainty, because those things that we could not do because we don't have the money, but we come 2 days after special session ends. I'm sorry, the session ends with a special session, but now we have the money, but we didn't have the money for mental health. We didn't have the money for hospitals. We didn't have the money for homeless to really address homelessness. And $5 million to me is a lot of money, but that's just because I've never had $5 million. But when in the grand scheme of things, and you look at how homelessness has become more and more pervasive, and part of that is because affordable housing does not exist. $5 million towards that problem, towards that challenge, is probably like saying, can you buy me a Coke? And so we would really have to look at it through the lens of how pervasive is the problem. And if we're going to be a good community partner, how do we come up from 5 million so that it really, really, really addresses the problem? Because if we don't do these tax credits, that means that there's going to be money that we can do some other things with. And as far as the transferable tax credits, that for me, if we give that to you, but then you can transfer, you can sell it to someone else. Here we go again, because now you're talking about tax dollars that are here and now, but they're not going to be. And in the future sometime, maybe they will be again. Does that make sense to you? So I'm just trying to, these are questions from people who text me, but they're also questions that I've been trying to figure out in my head. And so I will tell you that transferable tax credits are a problem for me.
I come from the trade show industry, Mr. Hill, as I know you do too, at the LVCVA, and we look at a CES, which brings in 115,000 attendees on average. ConAg, ConExpo just left in March, I think nearly 140,000. So I guess one of my questions would be, will the LVCVA be actively pursuing the convention and trade show sector to fill those seats at A's games?
Senator Pacina, Steve Hill. The answer to that is absolutely yes. And it's not simply the trade show industry and the corporate meeting industry, but our sports department will also be working with the stadium to fill the stadium.
And what percentage of seats, and I'm just curious, in estimation, would be filled by visitors versus locals?
Senator Pacina, Steve Hill. The general projection is that about 30%, maybe a little less than 30% of the attendees would be visitors. And then just that 16% of the attendees would be those incremental visitors. And that's the basis for the entire calculation about the benefit to state and local government, just those 16%. And excuse me, but just to put that in a little more perspective, if I could, the 405,000 people just for 81 baseball games is just 5,000 people per game that have come to Las Vegas to attend just the baseball game portion of what's been projected. Those are the people who are going to provide 100% of the statewide and fiscal benefit that Mr. Guerra has projected.
This does sound like an exciting opportunity for Nevada. And I did have the opportunity to meet and talk with the A's owner, Mr. Fisher. He seems like a fine man and a person of high integrity. And the jobs, 14,639 jobs for construction of the stadium, and then 8,010 jobs for annual operations of the stadium. And then the visitors that will come to Nevada to watch baseball games from every state, because they're going to play every team from every state. And the fact that it's affordable, the families, that was a question I asked him, because some of the sports in Nevada are not affordable to a family of four. And he assured me there would be stadium seats and that a family of four could afford to go to these baseball games and buy their kids a hot dog and a soda, maybe some popcorn. And so those things are all very attractive to the state. But just in the last few days, I have received numerous emails from the people that live in Nevada, the people that live in my district. And so my question is there any possibility that the people could possibly receive an increase in their property taxes? Homeowners could receive an increase in their taxes on their property, or Nevada citizens generally could receive a tax increase? Thank you.
Senator Krasner, Steve Hill, Mr. Aguero can correct me if I'm wrong, but no, I don't believe that that would be the case at all.
Under any scenario, that would not be the case?
Senator Krasner, if as Mr. Aguero described, the Armageddon scenario that talked about where the county would actually have to backstop the bonds, by the way, the payments on that $95 million, $120 million bond is about a 15th of that. So it's $9 million when we start, something along those lines, a year. So it might have some minor impact somewhere, but other than that, I don't think so.
I too just want to thank you for being here and presenting. I know it is late. Thanks everyone for staying with us. But I think it's important for us to be able to ask questions. And I think that you've obviously heard that there are some concerns and some things that I think we can have some further discussion about. And so, like my colleague, just looking forward to seeing some amendments and working through some of the pieces of this.
Take a break from acting. Cranston told British GQ magazine he plans to take a break from acting in 2026 when he'll be 70. He said the plan is for a total pause where he won't be thinking about work or taking phone calls. Cranston added he would like to go to France with his wife and perhaps even take up gardening. Best known for his award-winning portrayal of Walter White in Breaking Bad, Cranston is currently starring in the television series Your Honor, which he also produces. I'm Brian Shook.
President Biden's taking action while visiting with service members at Fort Liberty in North Carolina, signed an executive order to increase the number of federal jobs that provide hiring preference to military spouses. This is USA News.
Omaha Steaks is rewriting the book on burgers with an all-new handmade texture for the juiciest home-style burgers you've ever tasted. Their pure ground burgers are made from single cuts of